So if I want to guess a number between 1 to 100, so how can I do that with the program? So we can const random equals to math dot random. So this only the math dot random will generate the return the pseudo random number between 0 to 1. So if we want to generate the random numbers between 1 to 100, we can just multiply it by 100. So this will generate random number between 1 to 100, and we can console dot log random, and we can do that. Okay, sorry. So it generates 98.79 something. So it's not. So if we want to play a game, say, but this is still an arbitrary number. Like, we don't care about the point stuff. So we can just use the const float math dot. We don't want that. We just want random. So this will give me the float version of the random which I get. So it will be, as we can see, it will be arbitrary. Obviously, it will be a random number, but we don't really care about the decimal behind it. So we will just floor it, and the floor function is basically you must have learned it in C. That floor function just takes the lower limit of a number and returns it. Nothing uh, interesting there. So we can console dot log a there. So, okay, I didn't save that. So this gives me the low limit of every number that is generated randomly. So let's say if we want to play a game. So if we want to play a fair game. So let's say if I guess the number between 1 to 100. So if the generated number is less than 50, then I win. And if so, we can do that by, let's flow, if it's less than 50. So we want to return console.log. Bingo, we won. Else else console.log plug next time. So we will do that. Okay, I again save that. So it was greater than. So this is basically the if statement in. So here we give the condition for which, if true, then this should run this statement, and if not, then it should go to this statement. Else, it's actually. So if we want to say implement a nested if, so we can just go here and say if flow is is less than eight- 80, and flow is greater than 50. 6, we won. But if we want again, it was between 75, so it is between 80 and 50. So we got this. So if we want to, let's say we want to just cheat a little bit, so how can we do that? In that, So we can use, if we want to obviously win as much as we can, so we can insert basically a while loop. While loop is something like this. While loop, when a while loop, this is the syntax, this is while, and the condition when the statement below should be implemented. So we will give if floor is greater than 50. So our statement should run. So what we can do basically is we can generate whole number again and try again this exact same thing. Else console.log, sorry. And if we want to break out of it. So because just see that because this statement floor greater than 50 will always be true if it goes to the else statement, because we have given the situation that if floor is less than 50, then we won't go into else statement. So this won't be implemented if it's less than 50, and we are get so it will logically be greater than 50 only. So the while loop will always be implemented if it's greater than 50. So we want to then we want to break if we won one time. So let's go and implement it. Let's see what happens. So okay, I'm lucky. Ah, what the, okay, I am pretty lucky. So while flow is greater than 50, console.log. Okay. Okay, okay, I got it. It's 55. And then we didn't console.log flow. So let's do that. So just see that here. It's 94. Then it went to a while loop and then 33. So we won. Again, if we do that, so let's see, it's 95. First, this will implement this. It will implement this statements. Constant the floor will be defined, and if floor is less than 50, good, we won. And if it's not, then we will go into while loop. And if if then also we are unlucky, so that it will go to the else statement and it will print sorry. So it did that, and it will go again and do the whole process over and over again until we have won. And then it will come out of this while loop. So basically while loop is a very a form of when we want to let's say define an infinite loop. The while loop is very necessary for that purpose. For basically if we want to implement a regular uh, not recurring not infinite loop, we basically use the for loops. For loop are basically the same thing, it's not exactly the same thing, but they are similar to while loop in which we can control the situations. For example, if we want to limit the number of recursions, we can do that. So let's say if I is less than 5, we just want to try 5 times. If we want in 5 times, then it's okay. Otherwise, we want to move on. So let's do that. Copy, paste. Okay, I'm not gonna. Okay, sorry. And here we want to break. Okay, it's throwing me error. Where is the problem? Declaration. No problems. Wow. Okay. If else. Oh, yeah, it's working now. So see, so we did the same thing, but in this we won't. So first we went up here and it implemented this. Then we didn't. We were very slightly off the 50. So it goes again. So in for loop it says no, we didn't win. Sorry, 96. So okay. So when it comes 29, it will go we want and then break, so it won't repeat itself after we have break after the break statement. So basically break statement is when we want to get free from our loops. The break statement is very useful. So let's okay. The next thing we are going to implement is our arrays. uh, Arrays. Okay. So arrays is so let's get rid of all of these things. Don't want this. So as you guys have already studied about arrays, but in JavaScript arrays are quite a little bit different. Let's say we want to let array equals to a comma b comma 3. So this is valid array, but this is a valid array in a JavaScript. But in C, this okay, sorry. In JavaScript, it's a valid array, but if we want to do that same thing in C, it is not possible. But in JavaScript, it is actually better of both worlds. In Python and C language, JavaScript is better from both the worlds. It, it is we can define objects in here. We can define anything in array. We can actually define functions, also functions in array. We will see that in a little bit. So let's see what we can do with these arrays. Arrays are we can define string in it, numbers in it, function in it. Let's see one example there. uh, Functions equals. Okay, we have to define function. Let's say fun console.log. Okay, we can do that. If we want to do that, we have to change that var as my friend Nazi explained. And if we go and fun, why this happens? Okay, let functions fun, comma string a. Let's do that. And if we call the function here, functions functions 0, call it. Let's see what happens now. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. It wasn't type. So see, so we can basically define, we can insert anything in an array function as we saw. But yeah, we can do that. But let's just see what are the functionalities, what are the inbuilt functionality that JavaScript provides us for the arrays. The first first is for each, what we are going to see. So in for each, what happens? It actually returns nothing, but it iterates over every single element in an array. And if we want to perform, like we have to print an array, or we have to take a sum of an array, we can do that. So let's see for each, and it takes an argument of a callback function. Callback function is basically value, an arrow function. We can define, okay. So return, not array. We want to return. We want to return. We don't have to return anything. We have to console.log each value of an array. So it just prints all the value individually in an array. So if we want to do something like value dot to string, actually this function basically turns everything to string. Like if we have a number, so we have a number here, so that's, so and plus, let's say, and add an s to that. So let's run our function. So let's just see that AS, DS, and SS. So we can do quite very. It is very and handy. It is very handy function when we want to use an array or anything like that. We want to make most of our. We don't have to iterate it over and over and over again. So yeah, this is very handy. And the other function that inbuilt in in JavaScript is filter. And filter, which is somewhat like for each, but it returns a filtered array. So let's define filtered equals to, and well, again, a function. This return return well. Okay, if our well is is nan. So nan is basically is nan, not a number. So if it's not a number, then it will return it will return bar, else nothing. So let's just console.log fill. See, so the string parts in it are displayed, are returned in this fill variable. So we can filter on whole array. This seems little. This will seems like it can be done in any way, but when we are talking about arrays, we in practicals, arrays are as long as literally a million values are there in array. So we don't have the to just iterate it over like in for loop. This is very this is a that is a traditional way, but this is a very good inbuilt function which is provided uh, by JavaScript in array. So the next is map, which iterates, which returns same length of array. So that's okay. sorry, that array dot map. So basically, map returns the value when we want to do something on an array and also store it. So we can do like return well as we did previously, well dot to string plus and hash. So this will return and it will be stored in an array. Okay, I have a so as you can see, this returns an array which we can which it iterate over by a plus s, b s, and 3s. It is very useful tool to have. It is a very useful thing. The next, so yeah, that's the some basic stuff in JavaScript. Now we want to go to our playground and do something there. So here, the basic HTML stuff. It is designed by Bootstrap. So, ma'am, it's my font visible.
Yes, yes, mine is visible.
Okay, ma'am.
It was
Okay.
fine.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so the basic HTML, the div, the class. This don't worry about this. This is a Bootstrap class, so it is only for designing purposes, and it's a just boilerplate in playcode.io. So basic div, I click, it does nothing because we haven't added any functionality to it yet. So let's just dive into it. Hi, it's so let's get there. So this is Bootstrap. Okay, app started. So how can we add a functionality to HTML and like that? So as my friend said, that the document is something which is provided by browsers to interact with HTML code. It is very basic stuff, but it is very powerful. So let's just define something. Let's just get this button element from our HTML in our JavaScript equals to document dot get. So basically, let just see the method which are here. The get element by ID. So we can get elements by ID. Like if I add an ID here, ID equals to say click. So I can get element by ID. I can access it through click. That's what I write. Right? Okay, it was not calculus. Okay, it is click. So I have now access to this button and I can do whatever I want with this. So let's see. And yeah, one more thing. This document dot element by IT returns an array of all the things. If I did get element by tag name. Okay, sorry, tag name, and here I wrote button. So okay, sorry. So this returns an array. So if I want to do some functionality to it, so let's add some functionality button. Okay, button dot. Okay. So it returns an array. So there is only one button here. So we can access it like that. But if there are multiple buttons or multiple divisions or something like that, we have to get element by id or something more specific to it. This is very generic, and it is not advisable to use that in the practical aspect. But yeah, it is. So we can something like on on click equals to, and now we have to give it a function name. Function name, like, okay, CKD click. Okay, now we have to define a function because here it is an error, unplot reference function. So let's define a function here. Function click. Okay, sorry, habits. So here I want to give an alert. Alert is also an very okay. You will see what happens when we. So this basically code will, what will it do? Let me explain it. So button, here we access the button element from HTML, and here we define if button is clicked, then and only then as execute this function. We are not using parentheses here, because if we do that, you can see we are getting an alert here, because it will just be executed on build time, but we don't want that. We want to execute it when the button is clicked, so we don't use parentheses, but we use here button was clicked. So let's do that, and here we get an alert that button was clicked. So you can see that we can do many things now. If we have the access to this, we can literally change. Okay, let me change it. Document dot get element by tag name, a div, and here if I want to change, c dot style dot background equals to, let's say, black. When so this code will, what it will do, when the button is clicked, the background will change to black, the div background. So I am accessing this element and changing its background color when button is clicked. So let's see. So this is very this is how we interact with elements, and again it is a very basic level. So if when we get to react and all that stuff, we won't see this document or something like that, we won't see it, but there will be more advanced level. This is just the basic stuff. And yeah, and on basic stuff only, it is very very powerful. And yeah, you can do we don't actually need react to do all the functionality we can do in vanilla javascript also, but the react gives us some help. It helps us in writing functions and all that stuff. So uh, so yeah, that was it. So ma'am, can you take over?